Imagine a place where the Amazon River meets the Atlantic Ocean, a labyrinth of islands, dense mangroves, and water so vast it feels like an inland sea. This is the Pará region of Brazil. In 1977, the island of Colares was a quiet fishing community, isolated from the modern world. Life there was dictated by the tides and the sun. But the geography of Colares is deceptive. It sits at a convergence of massive electromagnetic currents and deep-water trenches. To the locals, the sky was a source of rain and life. But that autumn, the sky changed. It became a source of predatory light. The geography of dread here isn't a dark forest or haunted house. It is the open, exposed canopy of the Amazon night, where there is nowhere to hide when the stars begin to move. It began as a whisper. The fishermen reported seeing stars that traveled in formation, stopping and hovering with a stillness that no aircraft could mimic. But soon the whispers turned into screams. The locals began to call these objects the Chupa-Chupa, the sucker. They were described as small, glowing discs or cylinders that emitted a hum like a swarm of bees. They didn't just observe, they hunted. Victims reported being followed through the forest by small, basketball-sized spheres of light that seemed to possess a sentient, searching intelligence. The atmosphere on the island shifted from peaceful isolation to a state of total siege. The first documented physical encounter happened to a woman named Benedita. She was sleeping in her hammock when she was awakened by a sudden, intense heat. The roof of her home seemed to become transparent, and a thin, needle-like beam of green light descended from the ceiling. It struck her in the chest. In that moment, Benedita was paralyzed. She couldn't scream. She couldn't even blink. She felt a sensation of suction, as if her very life force was being pulled through her skin. When the light finally retracted, she was left with two small, puncture-like wounds, perfectly circular, as if made by a surgical laser. By October 1977, the attacks were occurring every night. The people of Colares stopped sleeping. They formed night vigils, lighting massive bonfires and firing hunting rifles at the lights. They set off fireworks to try and scare the objects away, but the Chupa-Chupa seemed amused by the resistance. The lights would weave between the fireworks, sometimes descending so low that the villagers could see the beings inside, small, dark figures bathed in a blinding aura. The island was in a state of collective psychological collapse. The mayor of Colares, José Ildon Favacho Soeiro, sent a desperate coded telegram to the regional military command. His message was simple: "We are being attacked. We are defenseless. Please send help." The military responded by launching Operação Prato, Operation Saucer. The man chosen to lead the mission was Captain Uyrangê Hollanda. He was a veteran of the Brazilian Air Force, a man of cold logic and military discipline. He arrived in Colares with a team of sergeants, high-powered cameras, and electromagnetic sensors. Hollanda was a skeptic. He believed the villagers were experiencing mass hysteria, or perhaps seeing secret foreign technology. But within 48 hours of his arrival, the skepticism died. Hollanda and his men stood on the docks and watched as a massive 100-foot-wide mothership rose silently from the waters of Marajo Bay. It was the moment the mission changed from a humanitarian checkup to a full-scale tactical investigation of an unknown presence. In the center of the storm was Dr. Waleed Sessim Carvalho, the only physician on the island. Over the course of 3 months, she treated over 80 victims of the Chupa-Chupa. Her medical notes are some of the most disturbing documents in the history of the phenomenon. She found that every victim suffered from the same symptoms: severe anemia, extreme lethargy, and a shaking of the limbs. Their red blood cell counts were so low that it looked as if they had undergone a massive blood draw. Most disturbingly, the puncture wounds were always located over vital arteries, the neck, the chest, or the inner thigh. Dr. Waleed began to realize that these weren't accidental injuries. The beings were conducting a biological harvest. To understand the injuries, we must look at the physics of microwave radiation. Scientific analysis of the victim's skin tissue suggested that the beams of light weren't lasers, but highly concentrated microwave pulses. These pulses can penetrate the skin without burning the surface, causing the blood vessels beneath to rupture or leak. This would explain the anemia reported by Dr. Waleed. However, it doesn't explain the suction or the missing blood. From a hematological standpoint, the Chupa-Chupa appeared to be using a form of remote intravenous extraction, a technology that allows for the removal of biological material through a light-based carrier wave. This isn't just science fiction, it is the theoretical limit of high-energy biophysics. Operation Saucer was the most documented UFO investigation in history. Hollanda's team captured over 500 photographs and 5 hours of 16mm motion picture film. The images show objects of every shape: discs, cylinders, spheres, and massive refrigerator-shaped craft. Some images were so clear that Hollanda reported seeing the pilots, figures standing behind transparent panels, watching the military, watching them. These files were classified as top secret the moment they reached Brasilia. For 20 years, the Brazilian government denied the mission even existed, effectively gaslighting the people of Colares who had lived through the terror. Modern investigators have noted a chilling parallel between the Colares victims and the recent reports of Havana syndrome among diplomats. Both involved directed energy attacks that cause brain fog, balance issues, and internal tissue damage. The symptoms in Colares, the giddiness and shakiness, suggest that the lights were interacting with the victims' nervous systems, perhaps as a way to keep them compliant during the harvest. If the beings in 1977 were using directed energy weapons, they were doing so with a precision that the modern military is only now beginning to understand. Some researchers suggest that Colares wasn't an alien invasion, but a secret Cold War test. The theory posits that a breakaway civilization, or a secret space program, was using the remote Amazonian population as a human laboratory to test energy-based extraction technology. The Brazilian military's quick classification and the presence of American-looking personnel in the area during the mission suggest a level of international cooperation that goes beyond simple UFO watching. Were the Chupa-Chupa actually advanced drones being tested on a defenseless population? In 1997, 20 years after the mission, Captain Hollanda broke his silence. In a famous interview with ufologist Ademar Gavard, a retired and visibly shaken Hollanda admitted that the phenomena were real. He described how he had personally stood within feet of a craft and felt its consciousness. He admitted that the military had failed to protect the people, and that the files he sent to the capital were far more disturbing than the public was ever told. He claimed the beings were conducting a long-term survey of our biology, treating humans like we treat animals in a nature documentary. Just weeks after giving that explosive interview and promising to release more evidence, Captain Hollanda was found dead in his home. The official report said he had taken his own life using the belt of his bathrobe. But to those who knew him and to the researchers who had just interviewed him, the timing was too perfect. Hollanda had been a man with a renewed sense of purpose, a man who wanted the truth to be known. His death was the final redaction of Operation Saucer. With his passing, the primary witness to the military's involvement was gone, and the deepest secrets of the mission were buried with him. The primary theory remains that Colares was a resource collection site. In this view, the beings weren't interested in conquest. They were interested in genetics. The Sundarbans of the sky, as some call it, was a place where a superior intelligence could harvest red blood cells and DNA from an isolated population without triggering an international incident. The Chupa-Chupa were essentially robotic mosquitoes, highly advanced drones designed to gather biological samples for a galactic-scale study of human evolution. Another theory suggests that the objects weren't from another planet, but another dimension. The thin place of the Amazon Delta may have been a site where our reality and another folded together. This would explain why the craft could appear and disappear instantly, and why they were often seen rising out of or descending into the water. They weren't traveling through space, they were traveling through the fabric of the area. The Chupa-Chupa were the equivalent of deep-sea fishermen casting nets into our reality to see what they could catch. Today, the island of Colares is quiet. The Chupa-Chupa haven't been seen in decades, and the military files remain largely locked away in the National Archives. But for the survivors, the people who still carry the circular scars on their chests, the sky is no longer a source of wonder. It is a source of memory. The Colares incident reminds us that we are part of an ecosystem we do not fully understand. We assume we are at the top of the food chain, but for 3 months in 1977, the people of a small Brazilian island found out what it feels like to be the prey.
If you ever see a star that moves with a purposeful hum, or feel a sudden heat in the middle of a cold night, don't look up. Just close the curtains and hope they aren't looking for you.